Well, I'm a Virgo, and Virgos love adventure.
We showing up with a giant.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Awards Tour podcast. I'm your host, Jacqueline Coley, and I'm here today with an Emmy winner and from a Best Picture winning film, Moonlight. Of course, I'm talking to Mr. Jharrel Jerome, star of the Amazon Prime series. I'm a Virgo, directed by Boots Riley, created by Boots Riley. Jharrel, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
I will have to go ahead and say, because although I love this show, I know it is a show that a lot of people need to queue up on their Prime Video right now to check it out. And it is something that is singular, it is audacious, it is absurdist, it's hilarious, and it really changes the entire both superhero genre and basically I think what we've ever seen in a series on Amazon. But if you could try to describe it, because I asked Boots to do the same thing to me and he can do it like succinctly. Hopefully you can describe it better, because if I try to describe this series to people, they're gonna look at me like, what?
Yeah. I'm probably just as bad as you.
But you at least lived
Boots,
it.
I did live it. Boots is the king at breaking it down. But for me, it is a story about a 13-foot tall black man living in Oakland, trying to find himself in a world of corruption.
Yeah.
You know, I think that is the most exciting title.
Yeah.
And then once you get into it, that's just an umbrella for a million conversations that Boots is able to have, which I think is what makes Boots so special, you know?
What I really think is so interesting about this series to begin with is because it comments on capitalism, it comments on, again, superhero culture, and it also comments on the idea of somebody being born innocent and then trying to find themselves on a journey. For you as the actor, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your first conversations with Boots, when he sort of like brought you into this role and started talking about it. Like, when did you sort of decide to be a part of this? And knowing what you know now as far as what you were able to do, was there any point in which you were like, man, I don't know.
It's a little too crazy.
But it was curious.
I thought it was a little too crazy the entire time.
But I'm glad you still did it.
But yeah, of course. How I got brought into the project was really cool. Boots emailed me personally.
Wow.
So I woke up one morning to an email on my phone titled 13-foot tall black man in Oakland from Boots Riley himself.
Wow.
So that alone will get you up out of bed, you know? And so I read the email and he didn't even go too in depth. He just said that he had this idea. This was before Amazon, this was before anybody was involved. And he was like, the idea is that I want you to play this 13-foot tall character. And he was so gung-ho about me doing it that he pulled up to my hotel a week later and sat down with me personally over breakfast. And he brought this briefcase, and in the briefcase he had these little figurines of the characters. He had a little 13-foot tall, but you know, 8 inches maybe, and then little dolls around it, just so he can show me how he was gonna make it. Because my one thing was, Boots, this is dope. This is the most creative log line I've ever heard. This is fresh, but how the hell is this gonna happen?
Yeah.
You know, and so he knew that question was gonna be the main question everybody asked, so his creative spirit said, let me create these figurines and show everybody myself. So he came, he put up to my hotel, and he showed me with his fingers like this, as if it was the camera, how he would shoot forced perspective and not use any CGI, which is what pulled me in all the way.
That's the thing that we're gonna get to the technical aspect of how you were able to pull this off. But like, just beginning with sort of Cootie himself, like where he is. He's been raised by basically a cult who thinks that, you know, he's this messiah character. And I don't think Boots maybe intended this meta sort of like play on it, but he is literally the epitome of when they see us, in the sense of like, they do not see what they're supposed to see.
Interesting,
You know what I mean? Like, they see this threat when he is literally the most guileless and unassuming creature on the planet.
Right.
So I'd love for you to sort of talk about, on top of all the technical aspects and all of the sort of absurdist and crazy things you were doing, when did you sort of discover him as the character, and what was those quintessential parts of him that you wanted to make sure got played while we're dealing with literally just some like outlandish and sometimes really heartfelt and terrifying moments? Yeah.
You know, it's funny, my initial approach to Cootie was the wrong approach because I was so focused on his height the entire time. I was so distracted by that. To me, that's what mattered the most. To me, that's what made Cootie. And Boots looked at me like, you're absolutely wrong. That is not the case. And funny enough, that's the what's clever about the title.
Yeah.
It's not I'm 13 feet tall. It's not I'm a giant. It's I'm a Virgo.
Yeah.
And so what matters to Cootie is the little things that make him him. He wakes up every day and he's already 13 feet tall. So once I got rid of the height and I realized that it's not going to be about, I don't know, asking LeBron James what it's like to be tall. It's going to be more so, what is it like to be trapped inside your home your entire life? But what's so different about Cootie is usually when you hear about someone trapped, it's usually, you know, torture, or it's trauma, or it's, you know, these abusive parents who were like, you can never leave, you can never leave. But that wasn't the case for Cootie. He was well-fed, well-read, well-exercised. Honestly, he was living it better than the average person. And that was carefully crafted for him. And so now that he's outside, all that innocence, all that naivete, what's the nuance in that? And so for me, it was playing with the youth in Cootie. And regardless of how smart he felt he was, those big bright eyes proved that everything was new to him. And so as opposed to channeling the big, it was what's the child and how innocent is that child? And so if you watch it, I'm making like 5 facial expressions in one scene, you know, in one moment. And I think that was purposeful for me because when you look at children, that's how they get what they want, you know? Children are smart as hell. They know how to get what they want. and they don't use their words, they use their body language, their face, you know. You're 2 years old, you're crying to get that snack. By the time you're 13, you know how to cry and when not to cry. And so caring about those aspects of him, I think allowed that childlike nature to come out in him. And then all of a sudden, he might be a giant, but he's this soft, big baby. And that's what Boots really wanted to lean on, was that idea.
It's interesting too because they put so many sharp edges around him. First of all, from his caretakers, which don't seem as sharp edges when we first meet them, but as we sort of progress along the story, we find out that they are sharp edges. And then the people that he sort of befriends along the way. What would you say in sort of your portrayal of Cootie in every place that he gets to go to in there, who would you say was the most informative to the character that we see in like the last episode comparatively to the first one? Because he does, he meets a lot of forces that try to influence him and don't. But by the time we get to the end, we know that he has been obviously influenced by a lot.
I definitely think everyone he's met fed into it a bit, but I'd say safe to say Flora. I'd say obviously the hero challenged him in what is right or wrong, justice-wise and power-wise. But Flora taught Cootie love, like real love and awkward love and embarrassing love and shy love. And even though you would think the hero probably informed him the most, I think it was the little, you know, new emotions that Cootie was finding within himself that was tripping him out.
That's so interesting that you say that. I wouldn't have actually thought first of those. I thought it was going to be the more, I would say, aggressive forces that were with him, the bouts of racism where he was surprised by it. But that's so interesting that you say that it's
I don't think so. You know, I think Cootie, what Le Francine and Martise did was they showed him a bit of that racist stuff. They showed him a bit of the crime. They teased it a bit, you know. There's that scene where they show him the book, right? And you know that's not his first time going through that book. So he has this understanding of crime and evil, but it's at a distance, and the hero oversees it, so everyone's safe in his head. But what he does not know is love, and what he does not know is how to woo somebody or be wooed, you know? And so by the end, when he's asking himself if he's the villain, I can imagine this man is just emotionally confused and lost, you know? And so when you think of like his deepest emotions, I think it's the moments where he looks at Flora and he's like, what is this feeling I'm feeling? This is new and this is actually what life is, you know?
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about the technical aspect of this for the fact that maybe folks don't know there's limited, I mean, very minimal CGI, and none of it is really portrayed with you. It is, again, forced perspective. It is, you know, very Lord of the Rings and how they sort of filmed that. Did you have like a class? Like, how did they get that? Because that's a new cinematic language you have to learn and be aware of it when you start filming. So how did they sort of prepare you? Because your character, I would say, more than any of the people around you, have to live in it, even when you are the one that's having to really kind of ignore what you're seeing, kind of thing. So how did they set you up for that?
Well, they didn't. They did not. I think that was the beauty in me getting casted. It required a lot of trust on Boots and for me and what I could do. And so it was like a challenge accepted moment. There wasn't going to be any teachings on it because everyone was still learning too.
Oh, wow.
That was the tricky part of it all. Nobody was a master at it. Nobody came on and was like, all right, this is exactly how you get it done. This is how it's done. Let's get it done. It was very
on the day.
On the day.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes, you know, a scene that would take maybe 2 hours to shoot, it took us 5-6 hours just because so many brains are trying to do math. We're trying to do measurements. We're trying to figure out, you know, does my shoulder lean forward this way? Not too much because then it'll go into
the block
field
of the
that we're
shot,
not, you know. So there was no way somebody could be like, this is how it's going to be. We also, there's so many different ways to shoot it. So there's one way where I'm playing with dolls in front of me. Then there's another way where I'm looking at an X mark on the floor. Then there's another way where I'm looking at an iPad and there's an earpiece in my ear and I'm watching the actors act. There was just a million different ways, and it depended on the moment, you know, which way we would shoot it. So it was just mental gymnastics the entire time.
And I would say that would be one of the more challenging aspects of it, but I also know there's really just playing Cootie as himself, playing him as guileless as he is and playing him as sort of like earnest as he is, that's probably even more. But what was it for you, the most challenging aspect of approaching this? Or if you could say, what was the most challenging day? Because I think the whole environment kind of all baked into this general layer, but I think there's probably some key moments within this season where you would be like, yeah, no, that was a harder day. If you want to preview a little bit.
They were all really tough days. there were some days that just taught me patience. You know, having to keep my body in one position for an hour, 2 hours, feeling like a statue. That was never easy. I have these certain tricks for myself as an actor that I wasn't allowed to do this time around. Ooh. So for me, not that I wasn't allowed, I just wasn't able to.
Just for the constraints of the stuff. Oh, okay.
So normally, when everything is set and everybody's like, all right, camera's ready, camera's set, before the director calls action, they'll give me some time. They'll say, you want that time? And I'll say yes, and I'll take 50, 60 seconds maybe, and then I'll go, all right, and I'll get into the scene. Even if I took that time on this set, I still have to open my eyes, figure out where that green X mark is, remember that I can't move my body. And so 2 parts of my brain it was always working. So it was hard to trust myself and the work I was doing. I had to really lean on Boots because most times it's really your job as an actor to get lost, lose yourself, you know, even if, you know, you're always gonna be there, but put that away and let that be the smallest part of your thoughts. But with this, the technical aspect was so loud, so regardless of how much I tried to shut me off, I was still there trying to figure everything out. So, it was really leaning on Boots and then leaning on my chemistry with the actors, with everybody else outside of set. Yeah, that's what it was important for me because I never looked at anybody in their eyes on action. I never got to connect, actually.
Oh,
and
wow.
So,
see, that's the part that I like, because so much actors pull from each other's those eyes, but you never on any scene.
Not one
Y'all
scene.
hear that?
No,
no person giving anything back.
We didn't get that at all, and so it was a challenge for everyone else too. Olivia, Elias, Brett, we all had to work a little hard. and so I'd say the hardest scenes were when we were separated. So any of the moments where Cootie's in his big room, I was never on the set with them at the same time. So it was really amazing. The way they designed it, we're in a warehouse. If you walked into this warehouse, you'll see this huge house, and then right next to it, you'll see the same looking house, but very, very small. And so on the day, they would put Cara, Elias, Brett, and Olivia in the big house, and then they'll keep me alone in the small house. And so now I'm alone on this set, right? Even though we're all coming to set today, we're all gonna do the same scenes. I have to go off to the other side of the warehouse, and I'm alone in this little room with these small dolls, and I have an earpiece in my ear, and I hear all of them just kikiing, having a great time in the big house, right? And so on action, I'm playing with little dolls in this little room by myself with one camera guy, and then on the other side, they're doing the full scene. And so I have to imagine exactly what they're doing. So when Brett is making a joke, it helps to know how he makes his jokes. It helps to know, like, you know, maybe the night before we were hanging out, we were talking, and he said something that made me laugh. I have to remember that. Like, what's that facial expression he made? You know, the rest of it is all just me imagining. So, mental gymnastics for sure.
For folks that know Boots from like his music days, or maybe they saw Sorry to Bother You, I think they would make some assumptions about what he does, what he is as a filmmaker, based off of a lot of that work, and then obviously this. What would you think would folks be finding to be the most surprising of working with him as a director that they wouldn't expect from a set that you walk on that's his?
I think it's just a compliment to him. Whatever you think he's like on set is exactly how
It would
he's
exactly
like.
it. Oh, wow.
He sets up, it's a playground, in a very structured professional playground where you know you're about to come to set and be told the wackiest idea ever. An idea that seems like it's not fitting.
Yeah.
And the beauty of Boots is he executes them all.
Yeah.
And he's serious about that. That's what he's serious about. He's serious about, I know that's a weird idea, so let's do it. You know? And so when you get to his set, you know, he's got the big top hat on and the crazy colors, and he doesn't change up. He doesn't put on a serious fit and go, you know, he keeps himself where he's at.
Yeah.
And it allows you to feel like, you know, your director is your friend. Yeah. And that's important, I think, for any actor, you know. Some directors are great, they'll get the job done, but, you know, there's a lot of freedom an actor can find in their work if the director sets that loose, fun environment up sometimes.
And it's crazy to think, and again, when I was getting ready for this interview, when I checked your age, I was like, it's what? 27? No, this is not. I've seen who you've worked with. This is not fair. But between, like, you know, Ava and Barry and Boots and so many other folks in between, I'm sure that there's a lot that you learn. But with this one in particular, I mean, this is your show. You're the lead character. You're having to put sort of everything on your backs. What do you think was one of the most informative things that you've done from all your previous work up until this that really helped you when you got on this one? Because yeah, it's going to be very different because it's Boots and because it's so out there, but you kind of have to lean on your craft and your skills so that you can maintain. I mean, how long was the shoot? I think it was like
6 months?
Yeah, 6 months, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, Ava, Barry, you know, I've worked with incredible directors. The beauty about directors is that they're all so different. You know, they get that same certified fresh job done, but they all approach it so different. Yeah. And so Barry, for example, was similar to Boots in terms of his energy was very playful on set, and he wanted to make sure, especially Ashton and I at the time, that we were comfortable and that we were. Yeah, just comfortable. That was my first time on a set ever.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, you know, totalitarian and like, you know, it's gonna be a strict dictator on set, but it wasn't. He had his hat backwards, his shorts on, his sandals, and he was just very much.
Very Miami.
Yeah, very Miami, very just whatever you need, I got you. And then, you know, fast forward 2 years later, I'm on a Netflix set with Ava DuVernay, you know, big budget, big time, big story, important story. And I'm thinking, all right, it's gonna be easy breezy, just like Barry. Barry was easy breezy, and she was not. You know, Ava has such power when she commands, and it's a beautiful thing. And she's the captain of a ship, and so I learned professionalism from her. I learned don't be late. You know, I learned show up ready, show up prepared. She pushed me to an extreme. Like, you know, there was one time we did a scene for When They See Us, and I did maybe 6, 7 takes, and in my head I'm thinking, all right, this is weird. Why are we doing this so many times? I'm feeling great. And she comes up to me and she's like, "What's going on with you?" I'm like, "Huh?" She's like, "What's wrong?" I said, "What do you mean what's wrong?" She's like, "I don't see him. I don't see Corey. I don't see the character. He's not there."
Wow.
And I'm like, whoa, you know. And that was my first check. You know, my first temperature check. Me in my head thinking I'm doing well, and then she wasn't seeing it at all. And so she allowed me to take 10 minutes, go off. I came back, I did maybe 3, 4 more takes, and then she came up to me, she was like, "That one was it, and I'll do it again." And I'm like, oh. You know, so it's almost like you gotta, you know, she will take the time to make sure the performance is right. So yeah, I learned a lot there.
I mean, you got an Emmy, so like, let's be real, take the other take.
Yeah, I do 85 takes if you all gave me the Emmy. Exactly. And so that alone informs, you know, allowing myself to do a few more takes, allowing myself to make sure it is right, or lean on the director, you know. I learned my favorite relationship on set is the actor and the director.
Yeah.
And so I learned how important that is over time. So by the time I got to Boots, I think his trust in me not only came from the fact that I did have an Emmy, it also came from the fact that I work with the people I've worked with.
Yeah.
And so he understood that if there's a job that's gonna be for me, I'm gonna take it so serious. And I told him that. And so I was proud of myself. Because even though it was mental gymnastics, I had no idea what I was doing. I felt as though the work I've done in just the past few years of my life have kind of set me up to be ready to box with this. And the best part is now, like any other role I do is going to be a piece of cake, because I can actually look at my scene partners in the eyes and
I
all
guess,
that,
wow,
you know?
yeah, no, well, I think every time you sort of add a new muscle, and this has added a bunch of muscles for you, so
exactly.
I could absolutely see that.
Exactly.
You've had some distance from it, but I think it's interesting now because the legacy of what you guys did with When They See Us has only exponentially grown since that moment. I remember you standing on stage and talking to your mom, and that was just like such a cute moment. But that's a whirlwind. Like, I know what that's like. Like, you guys are just hitting events, y'all are doing things, you're not really paying attention. Have you had time to sort of like reflect back on that time? And reflecting back on it, what do you remember now? Because now you don't remember the parties, you don't remember the events. There's going to be very singular things that you take from that experience, which I don't think people realize it now. When you're holding that Emmy on stage, it seems so believable, but this was such an audacious dream when they were saying, hey, he's going to go lead, we're going to campaign, and it's going to happen. And so then when it happens, like now that you've removed from it, what do you look back on it now and think about?
Like, as you were speaking on all of that, my heart started beating faster, because I'm like, yeah, wow.
I'm sorry.
You know, it's definitely such a time. I definitely still haven't even processed it.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of those things I don't think you can ever process it. You can only reach for more and reach for the feeling again. You know, it's like a drug that happened. It's like I was given a drug, and I had a 5-night binge on the drug, and then that's it. I sobered up, and I have no idea what I experienced on that drug. And all I know is I should take that drug again just to see what it's like. You know, it's pretty much how I feel. But if I really think about it, and I COVID happened since, and the strike happened since. So much has happened that has slowed down what potentially could have been. So that sometimes weighs on me, but then you realize there's nothing you could do. You know, outside resources are outside resources, and they'll affect you how they do. So I have like this smile on my, like this like happy grin about the Emmy. But for me, it's just motivation to keep going and double up on it, you know?
I mean, you're not done. Like,
I'm not done.
You're not done.
I'm
Definitely not.
I'm definitely not done.
But,
if I think back on the night, though, the biggest memory I have is right before Angela Bassett said my name. Like, I can remember
like
that
she
moment.
said your name.
Yeah.
Like, that's like...
just the moment before she even said my name, when I didn't know she was going to say my name.
Wow.
When they had all the faces up on the screen, and then the envelope was being fiddled in her hand, and she was like... in that moment, because I grabbed my mom so tight, and she grabbed me so tight, and we were like that on each other. And I remember that moment thinking, I hope I lose.
No, you did not. You did not.
In that exact moment, I actually was like, I don't need to go up there. It's too much. It's too much, the anxiety. Because then I was thinking, like, all night I wanted to win, but in the moment, when you win, you got to go up there.
Yeah.
And you got to go talk, and you got to go do the whole thing. So I was so scared of that in my head I was almost like, it's okay if I lose. Like, if I lose, that's all right. You weren't meant to. Next one. And then she says my name, and I'm like it all just. From there, that's when I went blank, and I can't.
That's when the drug kicked in.
Yeah, that's when the drug started. That was the drug. Yeah.
I mean, you're definitely not done. You've already been in like another Oscar-nominated film. Like you're doing just fine.
Yeah,
and I want to talk about that one in particular because. The Prowler, like what you like. First of all, when you popped up, I was like, I know that voice.
Yeah, you recognize the voice?
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
dope.
Well, we had a whole season, sir.
Right,
we know who you are. And I
Right.
was like, but then I was also like, where is this going? Because first of all, the movie was already great, but in that moment, it was almost like we went into we did go into a different dimension, but we really did go into a different dimension of the movie. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about joining the Spider-Verse crew for this last iteration and what that sort of implication has for that character and what you could do, because that's just, it's insane. It's another Miles Morales, you know?
It's a dream.
Really?
Yeah, it's a dream. If you're Dominican from New York, and you grew up loving Spider-Man, you're gonna know Miles Morales, so you're gonna always have wanted to be him.
Yeah.
And so, however I can be him, I'm happy to be him. So when I got the call about it, the way they work is so amazing. You know, they're very, I mean, they're geniuses. You know, Kemp and all, just the guys who worked on it are geniuses, and they keep it all right here tucked. So when I got the role, I didn't know.
And that's Kemp Powers, by the way, Oscar-nominated writer who also directed Spider-Verse.
Yep. When I got the role, I had no idea what my involvement was. I just knew I had like a part in it, and it was 6 lines. That's it.
There's some 6 lines.
Some 6 lines, yeah, but it's 6 lines that I thought were just 6 lines that were kind of fit into the film somewhere. And that's how they approached me with it as well. They brought me in over a span of 3 years, maybe 8 sessions. So maybe I did 2 sessions in 2020, 3 sessions in 2021, 2 sessions in 2022, then the movie came out, right? And so every time I come back, I was reading the same 6 lines. Now, I'm confused. I'm so confused. I'm like, didn't I read the lines last year? And
like nothing's changed, right?
Changed.
Like y'all didn't add
I got the
any more.
same tone in my voice here. Nothing's growing. So do you want a deeper tone? Do you want me to get older? Is what it is? But they were changing the story as it was going along. It wasn't until my last session, maybe this is 3 years in, this is me coming up to them like, hey guys, how's life? You know, how you guys doing? They were like, well, we have a surprise for you. I was like, what's the surprise? They were like, well, those 6 lines are now at the end of the movie. And it's going to be a part of a plot twist that we're trying to include. And so it's like they came up with the idea after all this time. So that's how incredible they are. They're just fleshing thoughts and ideas out. And I don't know if that was if the ending of the film was their plan the entire time. I don't think it was, which is what's more impressive about it, because they got to that point, you know?
Yeah.
And so the same 6 lines that I was reading that I'm thinking is gonna be somewhere in the middle of the movie became the crutch of the end of the film. And so I'm gonna be in this next one.
I mean, we know that, yeah.
So I'm just very excited with how they took the story, and it's just an honor for me being Dominican, being from New York, getting to put on for my people, getting to put on for that culture, because the fact that Miles Morales was even like chosen to be a part of the, you know, Dominican, Puerto Rican culture in New York is so amazing.
Yeah.
And we love that so much over there, so we hold that so tight.
Oh, you Dominicans don't need a reason for
well,
pride. I'm trying not to be stereotypical, but y'all are.
It's true, we are so prideful. We hold on to our flag. And so for me to be the Miles Morales, it just feels so cool and feels so right.
I do love this, and that was like such a great film. You know, Oscar nominated again. I think it was Chris or Phil who said it when they ended up losing to Studio Ghibli. It's like if you're gonna lose to the GOAT, lose to the GOAT. You know. But how different was the line read from the first one to the last one? Like if you had to like are we talking like leaps and bounds? Like, do you even remember like?
No, it wasn't different.
It wasn't different.
No, I kind of did the same thing. You know what? The only difference is I think maybe on the 3rd session I came in and I was in my head because I'm thinking I'm doing it wrong. I don't know what their head's at. I don't know, but really they're just crafting something. I'm thinking I'm doing it wrong. So I did a whole pivot in my performance that they loved and we kept. And the simple pivot was, should I just put my Dominican in there a little more? That's it.
You put a little Dominican on it.
I put a little Dominican, that's it. I put a twist. You know, I could knock it all out. I could do your standard American dialect. The actor in me can do all these voices. Yeah. So I'm in there doing my voice like this, and then I see the lines and I'm like, listen guys, you want me to take it to New York a little bit? Like do a little Bronx Dominican? And they were like, yeah, try it. I did it. They were like, whoa, we like that. And so I think that that was just the biggest shift. That was the biggest difference. And that would have mattered 100%. Yeah. That would have definitely mattered. So I'm happy I leaned on that choice and I went back to my roots with my voice with it because it definitely put such a cool little badassness to the character.
So it's enter, across, and then beyond. So and beyond the Spider-Verse, we're gonna get to go there. You haven't gotten any phone calls yet. You don't know nothing.
I don't know nothing.
Based on what you said, you don't even know what you're in store.
I don't even know nothing. I don't even know if I have more than 6 lines this time.
I think you have more than 6. I think you have more than 6 lines. You're setting up a lot more than 6 lines.
I don't know what the story is, what the arc is, anything.
But you're waiting. We'll see you.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's I think because I don't know yet, it's gonna be perfect. That's why.
Yeah, that's actually the thing. So you can like look forward to it. as I was also getting prepared for this, you've done some, you know, Seal in the Spades. There's been a little darkness, little darkness a little bit. When are you gonna do a rom-com, sir? Like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, don't you want to do like a musical? Don't you want to just like take it a little?
I 100% want to do that. That's why I was excited with Cootie, because Cootie was a little bit. You know, it's still sad stuff. It still has a dark theme behind it, but he was more playful, and I got to be a little silly. But I'm a funny guy. I be making jokes.
We've seen.
I be making jokes. So I would love to do a rom-com, like a really good one. I'm actually, I don't know if I can say it. Yeah, why not? That's my good. Oh, it's not real. It's not real. This is not real. But like, one of my good homies is Dom Fishback.
Oh yeah,
like,
Dom
you know, we
Fishback,
have dreams
amazing.
of always like getting together and putting together a rom-com. So I'm definitely in my.
Well, she's a poet. She could write it between the
she's
two of y'all. But
incredible.
like writer,
She's incredible.
director, I see this right now.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to say it out loud, because you say things out loud and it happens, and we've been talking about it for a little while now. So I want to get into comedy. I want to do it all. I want to do a Jordan Peele horror so bad.
Yeah.
You know, I want to definitely do things that aren't always so dark. But hey, how the cookie crumbles.
Hey, listen, you're doing a good job in
The next thing I'm in is going to be inspiring. It's going to be motivating.
Oh, can you give us a tease?
Yeah, I can. I'm going to be in a film called Unstoppable.
Yeah, that's right.
That Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's Artist Equity Company is going to produce.
Yeah, I did see that.
And it's a true story, beautiful true story about a man who was born with one leg named Anthony Robles, and he ended up becoming a collegiate wrestler in school and like being undefeated and never lost and you know, won NCAAs and all that. And so it's his story about how, you know, he had a tough home life and obviously dealing with the plight of missing a limb and being placed in that world, but then choosing wrestling, man. Like, out of all sports, the most grueling sport that requires just you and all your physical strength and all your physical mental strength. So it's one of those underdog stories that are just, you know, beautiful. By the end, strings, and like you want him to get there, and the cast is awesome. Don
Matt
Cheadle.
Damon and Ben Affleck, y'all be all right.
Don Cheadle's in it.
Oh my God.
So let's not play around, you know. It's a great cast. So.
I dig that. I never believe anything on IMDb. I'm always scared that it's a lie, so that's why I never want to ask you about it. But
no, it's happening. It's in post right now, and you know, it's a thing. So that's what I'm really excited about. It's still heavy. It's not funny, but it's inspiring though.
That inspiring. We'll take it in leaps and bounds. But I'm hearing it right now. Jharrel Jerome, Dominic Fishback, rom-com, maybe a musical. We'll see what happens.
See how it goes.
Jharrel, sir, thank you so very much. Again, your performance in I'm a Virgo is absolutely incredible. I hope folks get a chance to see it. And thank you for being on the Awards.
This was a great conversation.
Thank you.
So much.
It was so much fun.
Of course.